afternoon was scorching the land mercilessly. The shadows of the acacias were flattened. The air trembled over the dry grass. A young lion named Roke, powerful but not yet experienced, walked alone along a dry riverbed, doggedly pursuing the scent of prey. He did not know that his every step was being tracked not only by invisible eyes in the bushes, but also by something much older, hidden in the rocks. Roke was brave, sometimes even too brave. He wanted to prove that he could hunt without the help of a pride. The prey seemed very close. The scent of blood, perhaps a wounded warthog or dik-dik. He slowed his steps, crouched, preparing to spring, and took a step towards the shadows between the rocks. But instead of a soft crunch of a branch, there was a dull thud. The earth seemed to shake. A giant python burst out of the crevice, monstrous in size, with skin the color of old oil. Its body was as wide as the lion's own torso. In an instant, a powerful ring had already wrapped around Roke's front paws. A second ring crashed into his chest, knocking his breath out of him. He howled in surprise and pain. The snake acted with lightning speed. The force of its compression was monstrous. The bones under the skin crunched. The claws slid along the hard scales. Roke tried to rise, but every movement only drove him deeper into the trap of living muscles. The savanna was silent. Not a cry, not a rustle, only the muffled wheeze of a lion choking on his own rage and fear. He knew that if he did not break free now, he would never break free. But no one was rushing to help him. His pride was far away. He was alone. 2 lions from his pride appeared on the slope nearby, his older brother Callum and his younger brother Tano. They heard the cry and ran, not knowing what awaited them ahead. And now, seeing the snake squeezing their brother, both rushed into battle without thinking. Callum was the first to grab the python's tail, trying to distract it and pull it back. Tano, like lightning, jumped to the body and struck with his paws on the ring wrapped around Roke's chest. For a moment, the snake loosened its grip. Roke breathed, harshly, hoarsely, but it was air. But this thing had a body longer than all of them put together. The python lashed out with its tail with incredible force, throwing Callum aside. He hit a rock and groaned. Tano jumped back, dodging the snake's coils. Everything hung by a thread again. 3 lions and 1 monster, and it seemed that the winner was already clear. The snake was squeezing tighter and tighter, its scaly body tightly wrapped around Roke's chest. Callum was rushing around, not knowing how to approach, and Tano took a step closer, and, with a roar, grabbed the anaconda's coils with his teeth. It jerked sharply, and Roke screamed, as much as a lion can do. The noise of the struggle spread across the savanna. The roar of an engine was heard from afar. A jeep drove out of the reserve. There were 3 employees in it, a senior caretaker, a young female veterinarian, and another assistant. Seeing the picture, they did not lose their heads. The woman grabbed a strong metal pole with a loop, their usual means of immobilizing animals, and moved towards the snake. While Callum and Tano distracted the snake, the rescuers went around it from behind. The caretaker deftly wrapped the loop around the reptile's head and pulled it tight. The anaconda jerked, releasing its grip. Roke's body went limp, but he was still breathing. In a coordinated effort, without resorting to force, the team and the lions pulled Roke out of the snake's coil. One of the staff members held a damp cloth to his nose. Dr. Hannah put her hand to his chest and looked at the others. He's alive. Still alive. The drive to the camp was short, but it felt like an eternity. In the open back of the jeep, on a soft blanket, lay Roke. His chest rose and fell heavily, his breathing ragged, his lips trembling with weakness. Callum and Tano ran after him, not a step behind. They hadn't left. They couldn't leave. Their brother was between life and death, and they were there. The reserves camp was a simple shelter with tents and a portable medical tent. One of the rangers gave a signal on the radio, and soon the team was preparing a makeshift place for treatment. Splints, oxygen, sedatives. The woman, whose name was Dr. Hannah, did not leave the lion's side. She carefully examined his chest, felt his paws, checked his pupils. If he doesn't start breathing steadily in the next few minutes, we may lose him, she whispered, looking at the device. Callum slowly came closer, lay down at his brother's feet, and bowed his head, as if saying goodbye. But at that very moment, Roke slightly moved his ear, then slightly opened his eyes. He looked in Callum's direction, and then at Hannah. The doctor held her breath. Her hands continued to work automatically, but in her eyes there appeared something that had not happened for a long time: hope. The morning at camp was cool. A light breeze fluttered the edges of the tent, and a smoky fog hung over the savanna. Everything was quiet inside. Only the short beeps of the machines and breathing. Callum and Tano did not leave their brother for a minute. They lay near the exit, warily watching every movement inside. Roke had slept for a long time, but now his body was no longer limp. When Dr. Hannah entered, he weakly raised his head. The woman froze for a moment, and then came closer, checked his breathing, and whispered, "You're a fighter. We can handle you." She removed the four and took off his mask. Roke blinked and looked heavily at the exit of the tent. His brothers were standing there. Callum growled softly, almost like a greeting. Roke moved his paws, at first hesitantly, and then with visible determination. He raised himself with difficulty, tucking his front paws under himself. The tent was still. Even the wind seemed to have died down. First one step, then another. Slowly, heavily, Roke stood up. He leaned on his sore shoulder, but his eyes were clear. He walked out of the tent to meet his brothers. They did not rush to him, only walked quietly beside him. This was not a triumph. It was a return. A week passed. Roke no longer staggered when he walked, though his paw still limped. The scar on his side reminded him of those moments when his life hung by a thread. But now he was not only saved, he was restored, surrounded by those who believed in him until the end. In the morning, the camp gates opened. Callum and Tano stood at the edge, peering into the distance. Roke was the last to leave. He stopped next to Dr. Hannah. The woman crouched down, looking into his eyes. "You are a true king," she whispered. He bowed his head, almost nodding, as if he understood. Then he turned and walked slowly along the road, leading deeper into the savanna. His brothers followed him, shoulder to shoulder. They walked past golden grasses shimmering in the wind, past lonely trees and their paw prints in the dusty ground. Birds soared into the sky, and the sun rose above the horizon. He returned, not as a victim, not as a wounded man, but as a symbol of the fact that even in the most terrible battle, if you are not alone, if someone fights for you, you can return.